Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Cut to the Chase Sports Podcast. We bring you unique insight and analysis regarding your favorite teams at the collegiate and professional levels. I'm your host, Chase Jantz. I'm joined by my guys, Matt, over to the right. I did the wrong way. There we go. Matt, how you doing?
Good, man. How are you? I'm excited to go tonight. Ready to roll.
Man, I'm doing good, man. Myself, doing good. And then down in the bottom right corner, we got Brady. What's up, Brady?
Oh, not too much, Chase. Just excited to be on here. Can't wait to get to it.
Definitely. And then obviously right below, we've got our special guest on the show. Thanks for taking the time out of your day. Ian Eagle joins the show. Ian, what's up?
Chase, Matt, Brady. Great to be here. Great to be with you guys.
Definitely.
Great to have you on.
Yeah, definitely excited to talk some football and all and really just, get to know a little more about you yourself. So we're obviously not going to waste a whole lot of time here. Get right into it. Kind of want to get a background about, yourself growing up. Obviously went to Syracuse. I just want to see what all transpired in that time and how you ultimately got to Syracuse, maybe going way back.
Way back. So my parents met in 1968, and then things happened, and then it really got started from that point on. I grew up in the New York area in Queens, so about 15 minutes outside of Manhattan, and loved sports at a young age. Realized at probably the age of 8 that I wanted to be a sportscaster, and my parents were very much optimistic that I could achieve my goals and very supportive. So when you get that kind of jolt of confidence at a young age, you believe it. Whether you have any idea what it is that you need to do, you just buy into the theory that, all right, I'll do it. They said I can do it. And that's basically how it started for me. I realized somewhere along the way that Syracuse had the best reputation among the sports broadcasting schools. So I got highly focused on Syracuse. It was at a time when the Big East was just forming, and Syracuse Georgetown would pop up on CBS on a Sunday afternoon with 30,000 plus at the Carrier Dome. I'm watching as a 14, 15, 16-year-old thinking that would be amazing to be in that venue and in that environment. And was fortunate enough to apply, get there in 1986, and realized again that there were a lot of people that had the same interest that I had. It was going to be competitive. I was going to have to work my ass off. And I committed myself to the idea that I could do this for a living. 4 years of trial and error, of making tapes and doing sportscasts and eventually doing play-by-play and building confidence. Radio, TV, talk shows, reporting, you name it. I did it. And that hatched the next chapter of my career, which was getting back to the New York area and all sports radio. And from there, just a lot of things fell into place. And, I navigated my way through the wacky business. And here we are now, 32 years later. Hard to believe that much time has passed, but I'm old. I'm an older person.
That's insane. That's awesome to be able to, keep pursuing your dream and, really have, stick your mind to it and just, keep chopping and all.
Yep.
And Syracuse has the Newhouse School of Broadcasting, I believe. Is that right?
Yep, correct.
Okay. And I know a lot of great announcers have gone through that, especially yourself and all. But I will bring this up. Varsity on Marshall Street.
Yes.
Gus. What?
Oh.
Yes, I'm going way back. All right.
Whoa.
What's up with Gus? Yes. Tell us.
You've got knowledge.
Yeah.
Where's this knowledge coming from?
Well, it's actually spilling from your son. We had a little conversation and all. I'm trying to figure out what.
Yeah.
What Gus? What were you and your friends doing back then?
Yeah, back then in the 80s, different time, very innocent time, no internet, no social media, nothing to distract you other than your own imagination. So, yeah, Gus was a young man at the time, and he made tremendous wings, but he was not a happy man, and he's still not very happy. He's quite surly. So we basically would just come up with every name that you could possibly think other than our own to give at the wing stand. And then he would call out on the microphone, Barnaby, your wings are ready. Whatever it was, it didn't matter. It made us laugh every single time. And there were moments where he would say the name and we didn't realize it was ours because we forgot the name that we gave, given the state that we were in mentally. But Gus could be tough. Could be tough on people. He's still there all these years later. Wings are good. They had a patty melt that I would lean on. That would be a go-to order. Pizza was okay. Not great, but good enough. If you were in a drunken stupor, it was definitely fine. And it's still a landmark there. I'm not sure they've changed anything, like other than the prices. I think the entire restaurant is still exactly the same, which is comforting in some ways and then troubling in other.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
Over that certain period of time, being 30, 40 years, that's you might need to have some upgrades somewhere in the vicinity and all. But
maybe the kitchen.
Maybe hopefully the kitchen was one of the first places they went to. And I also like where did you eventually, like you said you were at was it All Sports Radio, or what was the start for you in the broadcast?
Yeah, so I had interned in between my junior and senior year at WFAN Radio, which was first all sports radio station in the country. Started in 1987. My internship was in 89. So 2 years into the radio station, I got a chance to be there and observe and be a part of it. And it really spurred my interest even more. I thought to myself, think back again. We just didn't have the same kinds of outlets that we have today. Exactly. The idea of being at one place, all they do is talk sports all day, all night.
Yeah.
That blew my mind that you could maybe make a living doing this. So I made a good impression, and they called me late February, early March of my senior year and said, hey, we might have a job opening up as a producer. We understand that's not what you want to do, but maybe it's something you'd like to consider. I had job opportunities on the air in Buffalo and West Virginia. And I went in, I interviewed for this job at WFAN Radio. It was a long shot that I would get it. I ended up getting the job, and then I had to make a decision. Do I go to my hometown, work at this radio station that I truly thought would be a dream come true, even though it wasn't the job I wanted? Or do I go to one of these other markets and one day hope, if everything breaks the right way, that maybe I can get back to New York on the air in some kind of announcer role? So I chose option A, and it paid off. In many ways, it was like graduate school. I just learned a great deal. I got to rub elbows with Mike and the Mad Dog and Ed Coleman and Dave Sims and Howie Rose and so many other personalities in the New York area. And it just gave me unique insight. I just felt like I had a better understanding of the business and how to be successful in it. So it ended up being the right choice. Obviously, I worked my way up. It took about 15 months until I got my first on-air opportunity. And I started getting a little uneasy and was beginning to think maybe I needed to leave New York and try a different market, but caught a break, got on the air doing updates on a football Sunday in September 1991. And then I was put on the schedule the next week, and then the next week, and the next week, and the next week. Ended up doing my first show. Steve Levy and I co-hosted a Super Bowl pregame show in 1992 before Buffalo and Washington, 5-hour pregame show. And that was my first real foray into talk. And I ended up getting weekend overnights from there and eventually put on the air full time. Got the Jets pre and post game show in 1993, got the Nets play-by-play job in 1994, moved to TV in 1995, got the Jets play-by-play job 1997, got the CBS TV job for the tournament and the NFL in 1998. and so on and so on and so on. So it just was a really exciting way to break into the business at a time where there just wasn't a whole lot of these stations in the country. The proliferation began afterwards, and then they started popping up in every city, and in some cities, multiple sports radio stations. But back in the late 80s, there was New York, there was LA, there was Philly, Boston eventually. And then in the early 90s, you really started to see it heat up around the country.
That's awesome to hear, though. That's great insights and all, and just being able to work your way up and have a bunch of doors open and break through from all that hard work. And you're talking about having some of your, meeting some great people and all that. Brady's got a question to ask you about some people as well.
So for this one, you probably have a lot of different people that you have very much enjoyed talking to. But who is your favorite player or coach that you've interviewed? It could be either one. You could choose multiple if you can't pick one. But
Thank you.
Who are some of your favorite players and coaches you've interviewed?
Yeah, I was feeling pressure, Brady. I thought you were going to make me choose just one, and then I was going to piss off everybody else. I would say of the current crop, Mike Tomlin is the best coach to speak with. He is forthright. He is open. He is transparent. He is honest. He is interesting. He checks all the boxes, and that's all you can ask for. What we do in the NFL for CBS, we'll have a production meeting with the home team. So you'll get the head coach, you'll get 3 or 4 players, no cameras, no microphones. These are not recorded sessions. And then you'll do the same thing for the road team. So invariably, I've been doing this. Will be my 25th year doing the NFL on CBS.
Wow.
I know. You're like, man, you look so young.
You do, though. Yeah.
Just how can that be? The math doesn't work.
It doesn't. It doesn't equate.
It doesn't equate. So you can imagine how many different coaches, players, front office people I've talked to over a quarter of a century of doing this. Right. Tomlin he's great. He's great. He always delivers, and he always looks you in the eye, and he always gives you something that you can use on the air. As far as players, Peyton Manning was the first guy, literally the first NFL player that I talked to in a production meeting setting, because I did his first game as a pro.
Wow.
It's my first game.
Wow.
1998, September. Indianapolis hosting Miami, Dan Marino in the final stages of his career, Peyton Manning just starting his career, blew me away. Came into the production meeting. First of all, he's a big dude.
Yeah.
Like you don't realize until he walks in the room. He's 6'5".
Right.
Yep.
And you stand up to shake his hand and greet him. You're like, oh, damn. Like, damn, Daniel. What the hell? So you have that moment. And then he comes in and right out of the gate says, hey, Ian, I'm Peyton Manning. Like, well, no, I kind of know that from Tennessee and all the TV games and your dad and the whole 9 yards. But he knew my name. So he took the time to ask the PR director, who am I talking to? And when you set the table that way, it does affect your opinion of someone. It's just a great first impression. Now, I ended up talking to him, I don't know, I'd have to go back and look, probably 30 times, 35 times over the course of his career, if not more. Mm-hmm. And he was always fantastic, always insightful, always gave you what you needed, and whatever was going on in his life, in his career, he was laser focused to do well in that 12 to 15 minutes. Tom Brady, he warmed up to it. I think Tom early in his career was a little more cautious and the Patriot way. And then later stages, he realized that, hey, we were not there to screw him over or to make him look bad. It really was an information sharing session. Mm-hmm. And Brady was, and still is, excellent in those one-on-ones. NBA wise, there've been a bunch of guys, and I've been really lucky, to interview Jordan and LeBron and Kobe, the greats. Those three in particular, I don't want to say they were the best interviews. What I would say is over the course of my career, I've been doing the NBA. This will be my 29th year. So to blow that whole math thing out of the water again, it's my 29th year doing the NBA. Those three players over the span of that time period, when you walk into the arena and any of those three players are in the game, you knew it would be different.
Right.
You just knew there would be a different vibe in the building, whether it was a home game for them, a road game for them. There was an energy that came along with their presence. And you could feel it as a play-by-play announcer in calling the game, describing the action, and that layer that separated that game and that moment from others that you've done. So I wouldn't put them in the interview category because I just didn't talk to them enough, but I would put them in the category of special athletes that changed the whole vibe of the event that you were working. But, I've done tennis and college basketball. So any of the major college basketball coaches I've sat down with, from Coach K on down, and tennis players like Roger Federer and Nadal and Djokovic and Serena and Sharapova. There's just such a plethora of big-time athletes and coaches that I've talked to throughout my career, and I've been really lucky for this time period. There have been some truly special human beings.
That's awesome. All those players and coaches you named are so legendary, and I really love hearing the Mike Tomlin thing. Being a Steelers fan, that he was so interesting and seemed like he was maybe the most insightful coach you've talked to, at least on the NFL level. Have you talked to Roy Williams before?
Oh yeah, many times. I had games of his through the years at North Carolina. Had a couple at Kansas. So before he made the move. Roy is a wonderful guy and easy conversationalist, brings a positive demeanor whenever you went to his practices or sat down with him. Brutally honest. He was one of those guys. Now keep in mind, often I would be paired off with Bill Raftery. So I do think I benefited a great deal from Bill's presence, that these coaches were just so comfortable with him. And the fact that Bill verified to them that I was okay too probably made the conversations even better. So Roy was just so welcoming and very frank in his approach. He's one of the good ones, definitely.
Good. I also, the reason I asked that is because I'm a big UNC basketball guy, especially when it comes to March Madness time. I can't get enough of college basketball. Once April hits, is after the national title game, I go into kind of a sports depression because I'm not the biggest baseball guy. I'm just waiting for football to start at that point.
Yeah, they do have pills for that. If you're interested,
you're gonna have to get some. I think have to get some.
There could be a prescription in your future.
Okay,
I might have to get some this April of 2023.
That's right.
Tell you that. Oh man.
Got to transition to the next question here. What's the biggest game you've ever called? And then to follow up on that, what's the best athletic performance you've ever called? So it could be a player, could be a team as a whole. Just go ahead and elaborate on those.
Probably the athletic event that sticks with me the most. I have a couple, but I was really fortunate during the 90s to get hired to do the world feed for big events, NBA finals. So there would be the American feed. Back then it was NBC. The NBA was on NBC, and they did a great job covering the league during the Jordan era. Yep. But they could not send their feed to foreign countries. Foreign countries, there was a different rights fee holder that would buy the event and then often produce their own version. So during those Bulls runs, I ended up doing a bunch of those NBA finals, including the Chicago Bulls, Utah Jazz, when Michael Jordan hit the shot over Brian Russell. It ended up being his last game, his last moment as a Chicago Bull, and I was on the call. And the broadcast went to the United Kingdom and Israel and Indonesia. I'm huge in Indonesia. I can't walk the streets of Indonesia without a mob scene. So, yeah. So that particular event, in the moment, I thought it was ridiculous and incredible. And now, all these years later, I recognize how special it was. It was his last game as a member of the Bulls. And the way it went down, the Jazz, it was game 6 of that series. The Jazz were on the brink of tying it 3-3. Game 7 would have been there in Utah. The way that it was set up, all of the international broadcasters, which I was a part of, we were all basically in the stands. They had created broadcast pockets in the stands for us to do the game, where they would put a television monitor and then you would sit in your seat. But there were fans surrounding us, in front of us, behind us. So you were in the lion's den. You felt the energy and you felt the despair in the moment of those Salt Lake City citizens that just could not believe their eyes. And then another one I did the world feed for was Duke and Butler national championship game, where Hayward had a chance to win it at the buzzer on a half-court heave, clangs off the rim, Duke wins the title. And in my mind, if that ball goes in, it would have been the greatest ending in NCAA tournament history, and it would have been the greatest upset in NCAA tournament history, all in one shot. I really believe that. And there were some incredible upsets. Villanova knocking off Georgetown, and NC State beating Houston.
Oh, yeah.
Those were incredible. I think this would have topped it, plus the fact it would have been the Cinderella story in Indianapolis in the backyard of Butler. It didn't happen. Duke won the game, but as far as the pulsating sense of an event, that was up there. And I've done a bunch of NFL playoff games on television, on radio. And again, when you have 75,000 people with everything on the line, and Joe Flacco delivers, or Ben Roethlisberger delivers, or Aaron Rodgers delivers, all of those visuals are popping inside my head because, I ended up doing a bunch of those games through the years, either on the TV side or on the radio side. And even tennis, I think about. I did the French Open 14 straight years, and Rafael Nadal won it 13 of the 14, I believe, that I did. So now you think about that in the context of history, it will be unparalleled, unmatched. The guy has been a machine on that surface, in that venue, and had a chance to call a couple of the finals along the way. So those stand out as well, of just witnessing history and witnessing greatness.
Honestly, I think it was the fact that he knew that your presence was going to be made over over there in France. I think that's really what it was. But before I get to my next question, I'll tell you, the thing that got me chills, what you said was sweeps the leg, McPherson, he's got it. Cincinnati wins. That was beautiful. I was on a bus coming back from a college basketball game, and we were watching on a computer and all, and I just that moment was beautiful, though.
Could you hear it on the computer? You got the call loud and clear? Good.
Call, everything.
That means a lot. Thank you.
Magical. And speaking of the NFL and all, we'll get in the week 1 preview in just a minute, but I think you alluded to this a little bit earlier, but what does you had the production meetings on Friday and Saturday with the team, but what does your preparation look like a couple of days before the production meeting starts?
Yeah. So for me, it's all about getting ahead and chipping away at your work. Monday morning, I start fresh on my next game. That means creating a board with all the pertinent information I need. I should have brought them in here. I'm actually I do all my Zooms in my wife's office. My office is over there. I'm not humble bragging that we have 2 offices. It's just the way that the house is set up. But I would grab my board and show you what that looks like. It's Yeah, it's pretty intense. It's color coded, and it's. I still do it by hand. Anything you could think of that would be on there. Obviously, uniform number, name, height, weight, age, how many years in the league, what college they went to, how they were acquired, when they were drafted, how much money they make, their hometown, any other pertinent notes, scouting report information, just things that I know I've committed the time to, and that when the time comes to get in and do this game, I have it at my fingertips. How much of that information makes air? Maybe 15%, 12%. If it's a bad game, non-competitive, the number goes up. If it's a great game, the number stays very low because the action speaks for itself. In addition to the biographical information, now I'm throughout the week mining for any kind of factoids and nuggets that I can sprinkle in during the broadcast that are germane to what we're talking about, not just forcing stuff in. I think early in my career, I wanted to prove often, whether to myself or to the viewers or my bosses, I wanted to prove how much prep I did, how much I knew, how much information I compiled. And I would show it by ripping off stats, whether they fit or not in the moment. And probably year 6 or 7, I started to figure out that's not the MO. That's not the way to do it. You got to wait, and you have to show patience. And by the way, if you don't use a stat or a fact, it's okay. Life will be okay.
Definitely.
So that required experience and repetition and muscle memory, all these things that you devote hours upon hours upon hours to, with the hope that one day you're never quite an expert in this, but you get to a level of expertise that you have command. You know what to do. You know how to do it. So the preparation is very exhaustive and can be exhausting, but the payoff is when you have a good show and a good telecast, it validates all the time and effort that you put into it. Same holds true for an NBA game. Same holds true for a college basketball game. NBA, maybe a little easier because I live in that world year in and year out. College hoops, you get dropped in, parachute in, 2 teams that you may not be all that familiar with. By far, my most challenging event every year is the NCAA tournament. Mm-hmm. You get a phone call around, or a text now, because we're in a different communication world, about 9 o'clock, 8:45 Sunday night on Selection Sunday. And that dictates your fate. You're told where you're going.
Right.
You have no idea. You watch the selection show like everybody else. And now you look at the teams and you look at the matchups and you think to yourself, man, I'd like to be in Omaha. I've seen 4 of those teams, or I have working knowledge of 5 of those teams. But then you get the call, you're going to, and it's like a long pause, and then it's slow motion. Seattle. Oh, like a punch to the stomach.
Oh.
And you realize I've seen 2 of those teams.
Right.
I haven't seen 6 of them. I got to start from scratch. I got to just attack this thing. And then it's just a mad dash. It's a fire drill of you trying to pack as much information into your head over the next 72 hours as possible before you get on that plane to whatever city you're going to. And you know, you're just going to be in it. You're immersed for 4 games in a day. Like if somebody under normal circumstances, you do this job a long time, you do a bunch of games, and you have a game on a given night. If someone said after the game, said, hey, Ian, just hold up. Yeah, what's going on? We need you to do another game right now. You're like, what? No, I just did the game. I'm not doing another game. They go, no. You're going to do another game. You go, okay, I'll do another game. And you keep your headset on, you do a second game. And then after that second game, you're ready to exhale and grab a bite to eat, and you take the headset off, you turn around, and the same person's there. They go, Ian, third game. We need you to do a third game.
man.
You go, dude, I'm done. I just did 2 games. I go, no, we just need you to do the 3rd game. And now you do the 3rd game. And now you're exhausted. Your throat hurts. You're hungry. You have to go to the bathroom, all the things that happen over the course of a day. And you put the headset down, you turn around, and the guy's still there. And he goes, sorry, man, 4th game. You got to do a 4th game. So that's what that day is like. You're just boom, boom, boom. And it's exhilarating. And when you get great games, last year I had the St. Peter's run.
Oh, yeah.
The win over Kentucky in the first round. Nobody could have visualized that happening. So when you're in those moments, you realize it's unique, it's different. There really isn't anything like it in sports, because most of the time, if you get to the playoffs of any sport, you're talking about the best of the best.
Right.
So when upsets happen, you can at least wrap your brain around it. You get to the NCAA tournament, you're not talking about the best of the best. You're talking about the best sometimes of the rest.
Yep.
St. Peter's, great story, wonderful team. In a million years, could you predict them winning over Kentucky, beating Murray State, beating Purdue? Like, that's the one that even shocked me more. Kentucky, you can make a case that they didn't see it coming.
Right.
Murray State, all right, fairly level playing field. Purdue had a full week
Yeah.
to watch the tape, to prepare their guys, and they still couldn't solve them. And then, as we know, North Carolina just dismantled them. They were ready.
Yep.
It was a step up in weight class they couldn't handle. To the joy of many North Carolina fans around the country. It was a great run. But that to me stands out, because it's just such a unique setup, unlike most of the other sports that we follow.
That's awesome, though. I mean, it's a lot to go into and really think about getting the call going somewhere, calling 4 games in a day. And you know what? Some of the stuff is like, you get some of your best calls from some of that, like unexpected buzzer beaters and everything like that.
Sure.
But I will say this, all right? We're not going to take you back to the stress of that. We're just going to have you go talk about this game for Sunday, week 1, Steelers, Bengals. We're not putting you through that stress, but here, I will say this. Just what does a brief preview look like for you of this game?
Well, for me, in doing my prep work, reliving that Cincinnati run from last year, the fact that the Bengals believe they're better than they were last year because they fortified that offensive line. They are so deep at wide receiver. I think if you started having a debate and listing the top wide receiver trios in the NFL, I believe the Bengals, if they're not one, they're 1A or 1B. They're that good. Those 3 guys bring so much to the field week in and week out. Defensively, you could see them starting to come into their own last year. The pass rush improved. Lou Anarumo did a terrific job dialing up blitzes when necessary. Is it a strength? I don't know. Corners, still some questions. They often play a lot of nickel, as we know, with Hilton. So the linebacking core is rather thin, and they seem to be okay with that. They can rotate their guys on the defensive line, and they have a lot of confidence in what they have up there and in their scheme. And, amidst all that, I didn't even mention Joe Burrow and Joe Mixon.
Exactly.
Not your average Joe. So, look, I know that Buffalo's getting a lot of attention, and rightfully so. In many ways, they were kind of the people's champ last year because of the way things ended against Kansas City. I think there were a lot of people that believed they would have won the Super Bowl and they would have handled the Bengals in the AFC Championship game. We'll never know.
Yeah. You
got to win. Exactly. So all of these are suppositions and conjecture, but Buffalo's really good. And I believe they have a chance to get to the mountaintop and maybe even win the whole thing. If you're Cincinnati, You've got to feel good about where you are as a franchise, where you are with your quarterback, where you are with your skill position players, and what you've developed over the last couple of years. Maybe they were ahead of schedule, but now you got to maintain it. It's all about sustaining in the NFL. One thing that Bengals fans know from last year, in this league, you can go worst to first. It happens literally every year. I think 12 of the last 13, a team has gone from worst to first in their division. That just doesn't happen in other sports. It happens in the NFL because A, free agency, you can improve, markedly improve. B, draft, if you hit it and you have 3, 4, 5 impact players over a 2-year period in the draft, it changes your team. And then 3, development. If you develop talent, you can see your improvement from one year to the next. From a Steelers perspective, very strange position to be in, where you can't say definitively what you expect from this group. In years prior, you always knew the team would be highly competitive. Maybe they wouldn't win the division, but they would vie for a playoff spot. They'd be in the hunt. They had Ben Roethlisberger. They had a suffocating defense. And now, without Ben, this next chapter with Trubisky to start, eventually Pickett, we presume, whether it's this year or next. A defense that still has players, but not quite as intimidating as it's been. An offensive line that is not amongst the best in the NFL. A cornerback pairing that I would say is more questionable than usual when it comes to the Steelers. And with that, you got a bunch of question marks. So all the respect, as we've talked about, for Mike Tomlin and what he's done. He's never had a losing season in his career as a head coach. This is going to be a challenge this year, unless they've just really seen something in Mitchell Trubisky that we haven't seen through the years, and they feel like they can harness it and make it work. This could be a rough go-around for the Steelers as they bridge to whatever their team is going to look like moving forward.
Definitely. And that's kind of what the piecing of week 1 is. I mean, it's like kind of seeing what you got and what you have done in the offseason to see if you improve. And, some teams will start off 0-1, 0-2 and all, but they get it fixed and rebounded and all. But it's going to be interesting to see, especially with these two teams coming off the AFC Championship run, Super Bowl, and Pittsburgh with all the stuff they had going on. I will say I got one more question for you, and then we'll get some final thoughts. Top week 1 headlines. I know that you're calling this game. We're not going to have you pick it, okay? But
thank you.
Just a couple of other games that really stick out to you on this schedule that you might not be able to see or that you're really looking forward to when you were able to look at these.
Yeah, Kansas City, Arizona is intriguing to me. The Chiefs without Tyreek Hill. There have been some changes there. For the most part, their core group is still together. And, as well as anybody preparing for that Cincinnati-Kansas City game as a fan, you had to quell some of your emotions because Patrick Mahomes was on the other side and he could single-handedly wreck a game. And Travis Kelce, if they get it going, and Tyreek Hill. And it just never happened. I called that game on Westwood One Radio, and Cincinnati was terrific. They really were. They never got to the point where you thought they were out of it, and they kept putting pressure on Kansas City throughout until they finally buckled. But what are the Chiefs? Are they still that team? I think some of the mystique is gone. There's no doubt about it. There was that 2.5, 3-year period where every week, whoever they were playing, you thought they're going to roll. They're just too good. They're too good offensively. You can't stop them. And last year we saw everything slow down a bit. Teams caught up to them. Teams figured them out. Usually they had answers with Andy Reid, and they didn't have all the answers last year. They got to it eventually, but they're certainly not the juggernaut that they once were. Arizona, new contract for Murray. This is a Cardinals team that's supposed to be winning at this point. They're supposed to be a factor, and I don't really know what to make of them I got to be honest, guys. I don't know what to make of the NFC. If you ask me, hey, give me the team that's going to emerge in the NFC, I would not have a definitive pick right now. Green Bay, maybe. They lost a lot. Certainly lost at the wide receiver position.
Oh, yeah.
Tampa Bay, maybe. A lot of injuries. Tom Brady a year older. I know the guy is not a mere mortal, but Father Time is undefeated. At some point, it does catch up to you. And Philadelphia, a team that I would keep an eye on in the NFC. If Jalen Hurts can truly get it going and that offense clicks, I think they've got a really good roster. And I think we saw a little bit of the flashes last year, whether or not they can get that passing game going. They certainly have the pieces to do it. And when you acquire the talent that they did during the offseason, you must respect it. So Philly would be my dark horse if they can get Jalen Hurts into that comfort zone where he's confident as a two-way quarterback.
Definitely. I mean, you look at the Eagles roster, obviously what they've drafted, and obviously the acquisition of A.J. Brown from the Titans. A lot of people are having them as their dark horse, and obviously got the Rams coming back from Super Bowl. Just God, but there's a couple teams in the NFC that could really make a chance for it. But like you said, it's kind of hard to really tell about that. And I know you guys at CBS are really excited because you got a lot of great players on the schedule, and you're going to call some Russell Wilson games a lot more frequently. You see Devontae Adams, get to see all those guys in person, a bit more than you normally would.
Yeah, that's a big headline too. Russell Wilson, the impact he has in Denver. What kind of team do we see? Is it a group that is good enough defensively to really take that next step in 2022? Or was it a product of their former head coach that got them going on the defensive side, and now that he's no longer there, do they struggle a bit on that side of the ball? I think Russell Wilson certainly brings a lot of tangibles and intangibles to the table for Denver. And they were desperate. They knew they had to address that position. They got a guy that works his butt off and is very dedicated and has won in this league before. But this is going to be a new situation for him. I would think that his leadership skills will take over. But Denver is one of those interesting teams right now in the AFC where if they somehow won 10 games and made the playoffs, I wouldn't be shocked, but I also think they could have a tough time finding their footing, especially in that division. That division is insanely competitive, and the other three teams are better than them.
Yeah, most definitely. That AFC West is going to be really tough to see this year. We know you got to go here real soon, actually quite soon. Matt, Brady, you guys got any final thoughts on what's going on today?
Man, I want to thank you, Ian, for coming on. It was really cool having you, and we really appreciate you sharing your insights with us.
Appreciate it. Good luck with the Steelers. Good luck with Ohio State. Look, you guys, you're going to be in the hunt. We know this.
Sure.
This is how it works for the Ohio State University.
Yeah.
And you're talking about a team that should vie for championship year in and year out. I've never been there for a football game. I've done a number of basketball games there. I know it's not the same, obviously, but I like going into Columbus. Great city. It's grown so much through the years. I just think about it. I remember I had an Ohio State game early in my career at CBS, and that's late 90s. And then to go there now, it's insane to see how much that town has grown. So excited for both you guys to have a fun football season.
Most definitely.
And also with the new Big Ten deal, you might get that with the CBS coming over and get some of the Big Ten football games. You might get your wish there, buddy.
Yeah, it's a great point. Great point. I'm
game comes soon.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Obviously, for CBS, losing the SEC was a big hit, and they knew that they had to go out and get serious about another conference. So to get involved with a conference like the Big Ten, already had a great relationship on the basketball side, and now you just have to get used to that theme music. That's going to be
it's a little different. It is a little different.
Put that as your ringtone. Prepare for 2023, 24, 25, and it'll be sweet music to you.
Definitely.
All the years to come. And for me personally, I really appreciate you coming on. I definitely want to get in the broadcasting business. I've had the aspiration. That's what I'm going to school for and all. And, this is, just great insights to just kind of learn from one of the best of all time and talk some NFL football week 1. Really appreciate, you got to run here. But for that being said, folks, Iron Eagle Talk, NFL, we appreciate it. See you guys.
All right. Appreciate it, guys. Keep it up.
Yes, sir. See you.
Yeah, we'll see you.